Hi, I'm Ed Amoroso from Tag Cyber, and I'm here with my friend Jonathan Cooch, who is the Senior Vice President of Strategy at ThreatQuotient. Cooch, how you doing?
Good. How are you doing, Ed?
Welcome to the video. We're looking forward to hearing a little bit about the work you guys do at ThreatQuotient. In fact, why don't we start with that? Maybe just give us a brief, like the proverbial elevator speech about what you guys do, and then we can get into some of the technology.
Yeah, so ThreatQuotient is a security operations platform. It's designed to bring in intelligence and information from external and internal sources and really integrate in with the data systems and people that are involved in security operations to give common situational awareness, assist investigations, and really help everybody do their job more efficiently and effectively.
It's funny that you don't say threat intelligence platform. Does that sort of emphasize the operational kind of emphasis in the work?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of shows where we've grown and where we're heading, because threat intelligence platform is kind of restrictive to just that aggregation and correlation of intelligence. To where what we've found is actually the greater value is in the integrations and in the processes that you can support, the use cases that you can support. So we're starting to look more towards a security operations platform, because that's really, it goes across security operations. It's not just within that one hole, if you will, or that one pillar of threat intelligence.
You feel like that was maybe the prompt for the company as you guys formed the company, these challenges to ops teams? Because I certainly have lived through a lot of that. Does that tell us about maybe the origins of the company, how you guys, what your journey has been?
Yeah, so we had two guys, Ryan Trost and Wayne Chang, who started the company. They were actually working with US CERT and with General Dynamics, running the SOC there. And their problem, which was a common problem that actually still exists today, was tracking a lot of the intelligence and information that was coming into them. So they had an Excel spreadsheet that they were using to manage kind of, all right, we've had these spear fishes come in, and here's the victimology, here's who they were targeting, and the subject lines and all this kind of information, all the way down to the adversaries. They were actually fairly advanced at the time, but the problem they were having is it was all managed through this Excel spreadsheet. It was a very manual process that they were dealing with. And so over time, they thought to themselves, you know what, we can automate this. And it wasn't something that I think that the government was interested in doing at the time. So they broke out and started the company and started doing that, building a database to be able to bring in a lot of this intelligence and help just manage and organize it a lot better.
What is the automation? Is it the ingest, egress, use, application, response? Are all those things targets of the automation?
It definitely is, and I think in the early days, a lot of threat intelligence platforms, that was their target, was to automate that, and even a little bit to automate. You know, once you bring in all of this intelligence, how do we figure out what's really important for the customers to be able to use? And so over the years, there's been a lot of automation focus on those internal processes, but we're also heading in the direction of automating how we interact with the rest of security operations. Right now, you know, SOCs and SOC analysts tend to use SIMs. Incident responders will use ticketing systems and enrichment tools and those kinds of things. You have vulnerability management leveraging scanners and EDR and other kinds of systems that are out there. And so where we're heading and what we're trying to do is really automate the processes between all of those, make sure everybody has a common situational awareness around what's going on, and help each tool do a better job at what it's trying to accomplish.
Tell me a little bit about the platform. If I'm buying the ThreatQ platform, what do I get, and where do I put it? What's it look like?
Yeah, so we kind of view ourselves as the quarterback, if you will, of a lot of these security operations capabilities. And I know, you know, a lot of people may throw that around, but you put it within, you know, to where it can reach all of your other security tools and your infrastructure. And you know, but we also need to be able to reach outside. And so it's that combination of external intelligence and what we call the internal intelligence. So not only are you pulling from open source and things like the MITRE ATT&CK model and the National Vulnerability Database, but you're also pulling from all of your internal systems. So you want to make sure that it can talk to your SIM, that it can talk to a ticketing system, EDR systems, web proxies, all that infrastructure kind of stuff. And you want to be able to align what you're seeing or what you know about that's happening outside of your organization with what you're really seeing and what you're looking for inside your organization. To leverage those two things together to be able to better do your job, so that analysts no longer have to spend a ton of time doing investigations and wondering, all right, I have this artifact, I have this IP address or domain name, what does that mean to me? Is that part of a campaign? Is it actively leveraging vulnerabilities? We want to be able to automate that and make it much quicker for organizations to be able to make decisions. And one of the biggest things around security operations I always talk to groups about is the fact that you really have to do your own internal marketing. Security is not a profit and loss center for most organizations. And so you've got to sell yourself to the C-suite. You've got to sell yourself to the other business units. And leveraging threat intelligence and leveraging a platform like ours that gives you that kind of a situational awareness of what's going on in your network and aligning it to threats helps you answer what I feel to be the three most important questions that you're going to be asked at some point in security operations, which is when your CEO or somebody else comes down to you and says, hey, I just read this on the internet. Do you know about this? Does it affect us? And what are we doing about it?
So tell me a little bit about prioritization. So all this stuff's coming in. I know, having been in this area, and I know you've got a military background. We were chatting earlier about old AFWIC days. It seems like the essence of this is, it's not that you can't necessarily get a bunch of intel, it's just deciding what's important and what's not. How do you do that? Like, what are the tools that you're using? And recognizing also, maybe part B of the question, that one company will be different than another, right? What might be really important in one place to, how do you do that?
So, for us, we implement it through a scoring system, and we do very basic scoring. From my military background and everything else like that, I like to keep things as simple and usable as possible, but at the same time, have it be extensible, have it really be able to be used across the organization. And so within our platform, we leverage a lot on scoring, and scoring is really just taking a look externally at the information you're being provided, not just from a source or a type of indicator or something like that you're being given, but also looking at a lot of the metadata. The metadata is really where a lot of decisions can be made and relevance can be found. Back in my days when I was providing commercial threat intelligence with eyesight partners that were eventually bought out by FireEye. That was the biggest question we were always asked by customers, is just like, can you only give me the intel that's relevant just to me? And so, but as you mentioned, a lot of that really, it differs organization to organization. What industry are you in? What kind of infrastructure do you have? What are you trying to protect? Who are you trying to protect it from? Where geographically do you operate? And so within our platform, we allow you to go in and specify those kinds of things. If EMEA is your main area that you operate in, and you're worried about targeting of EMEA organizations, then you can specify that in our platform and determine the relevant external intelligence. But our scoring also takes into account all of that internal intelligence I was talking about, so that if you have a sighting of some of your external intelligence in a SIM, in a ticketing system, then you can also raise the score of that to let your analysts know, hey, listen, we've seen this actively in our environment or around our perimeter. This is probably something we should pay a little more attention to.
Where are you guys getting all the intel from?
So we do a collection of open source and commercial paid sources, as well as I mentioned before, the internal intelligence. But we can also grab it from sharing communities. Most organizations leverage a combination. A lot of organizations rely heavily on the sharing communities that are out there. They may have a few open source feeds, and a lot of organizations will have at least one or two, some of them even more commercial paid feeds.
Now, I've heard about these these libraries that get built up over time, because as you got the hose with the spigot open and you're pouring out all these vulnerabilities, how do you keep track? Do you build like this massive data store or library of what you guys have got it? Because I would imagine there's a lot of dupes, like things come up that happened before. It's part of the correlation to know that something.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
I mean,
tell me how that works.
Yeah, so we call our massive database our threat library.
Threat library.
And we call it that very purposely, because Yes, it is. It's a database, and we do the aggregation and correlation and deduplication and normalization. One group might call it IP-4 address, another one might be IPv_ address, and so we'll do a lot of that to organize it all together. But the organization of it into a threat library just kind of indicates to the user that it's ever-changing data. This is not static information that's coming in. When information comes in, if you find out something else about it, you can add to that. You can take that book out of the library, you can read about it to learn about it, but you can also add into the book if there's more information that you have. And so this library is very interactive for the user, so that over time you're learning more and more about what you're doing, and especially as organizations learn more about the threats. There's certain ransomware has been adapting over the years, and so we want to be able to track how it's adapted, but also be able to give you that insight into, listen, we were hit by ransomware, but it was 6 months ago. We just found about it now. What did the threat look like at that time? And so within our threat library, you can go back in and be able to take a look at threats at the time that you suffered from them, so that you can protect yourselves and deal with it, respond a lot better.
Yeah, let's talk threat here a little bit and how one would go about either triaging or responding. At one end of the spectrum, there's like phishing that happens all the time. Like, I bet since the time you and I have been speaking, both of our companies have been phished 100 times. But spear phishing is a little scarier, right? That's a little more work. But at the other end of the spectrum, I'm guessing that there may be occasionally a piece of intelligence that you're sharing that really deserves immediate and really immediate triage, where it's pointing to something that could be consequential. How do you help, like if I'm a customer, how do I know, for example, that I missed something big, or whether something may be sort of routine? What's kind of the reporting and connection to response there?
Yeah, so I would say, our platform handles it in two key ways. Number one would be the scoring, to obviously elevate the score of something, to notify you that, hey, listen, this is something really important.
Could I connect that to my incident response process of something
and that's really where, so our entire platform is built on a RESTful API, and that was very purposely done so that we could share information with the other systems. One of the things I realize is the fact that SOC analysts use a SIM. I'm not going to try and replace the SIM. SOC, incident responders use ticketing systems. I don't want to, and I'm not going to try and replace the ticketing system. These are systems that have built out over the years to really specifically help them out. What I do want to do, however, is be able to exchange information back and forth with those systems. So, we call our API an open exchange, and that's to indicate really the bi-directional nature of things. You don't want to just send out information. I don't want to throw information over the wall and say, hey, listen, this is important. I want to interact with the information that I have out there, so that I can ask questions of the system that I'm talking to, and it can ask questions of me, so that as an incident pops up, they can ask my threat library and say, hey, what do I know about this? Is there any other information there for me? But at the same time, if something really important comes along, so Emotet has been a real big thing, especially over in Europe as of late. And so, if I have information on Emotet, I can proactively send that out to my systems, to my SOC analyst through the SIM, to the ticketing system, to be able to say, keep an eye open for anything that looks like this, because this is really important to the company.
What about investigators? Do they tend to make use of this as the investigations team, something that would be a target of the or at least a user of the platform?
Yeah, so we also have a capability that's called ThreatQuotient Investigations. And the design of that really was a cyber situation room. It's not just traditional. You look at it and you might think, all right, this is like link analysis and shows all the diagrams with everything tied together. But we've expanded it so that it's not just indicators and other threat information. We've tied it in so that you can tie it in with your processes. If there was a sighting in the SIM, if there's a sighting in your ticketing system, if there's a report, if there's a public website that's talking about something, if there's a policy your company has put out about something, if you want to tie it into the MITRE attack model, we have the ability to map everything there, so that as you have something going on, an investigator can come in and all the different teams can contribute. So this is also our collaboration center. A lot of times as organizations move forward, all of these separate security teams, they're all operating in their own silos. And so what we wanted to do was provide that one forum for everybody able to come in and say, hey, listen, here's a little bit of information I know. And in addition to adding it into our threat library, to be able to visualize that, for somebody to be able to say, hey, listen, here's how things might be related to each other, and maybe here's something else that I should be taking a look at. If I can find out that a part of the attack is actually related to a CVE that the MVD knows about, then I can go out with my scanner and be able to search my network for other places that's located. And so it really is that collaboration effort of tying together all the different teams to make sure everybody's on the same page and has the same awareness around what's going on in the network.
Yeah, that's a nice setup. Hey, Cooch, anything I haven't asked you about that I should have asked about the platform that there may be some things that I haven't asked you about?
No, I think that, the big thing is really where I see a lot of the platforms going in the future. Obviously, automation is going to be a big thing that you're going to see us and a lot of organizations focusing in on. I always go with the statement that just because something can be automated doesn't necessarily mean it should be automated. But at the same time, I think with the rise of orchestration platforms, with the rise of automation in a lot of things, a lot of organizations take a look at it and say, this is something I want. I don't have many people. I don't have a lot of resources in my organization. So I want to go out and I want to get an orchestration platform. I want to go out and get some kind of automation. And the approach that we're taking at ThreatQuotient is really to focus in on the right automation. You don't want to create a lot of noise. You don't want to create a lot of false positives, because I think a lot of people that have jumped into orchestration and automation platforms have found the fact that they're really just creating more work for their analysts. To do auto enrichment on everything that's coming in you have to sort through that. You have to figure out what's important. And so what we're trying to do is add in automation, but add it in a way that really helps with the efficiency, that helps to highlight to analysts, this is what I should pay attention to, this is how I should handle it, and also to really simplify things down. Right now, a lot of these systems can be very complex with the playbooks that they execute, and so we're trying to add in a layer of simplicity to where somebody can just come in and say, listen, I already know this is important to me, let me filter that down, let me send that through some automation, and then be able to make decisions on it with the information I get back. And if we can accomplish that, I think we'll really be moving in the right direction.
Seems like you already are. That's really quite an impressive story. I suspect that a lot of good things ahead for you guys at ThreatQuotient. People are interested. I'm assuming the website's the correct place for people to get information about the platform.
Yeah, most definitely. ThreatQ.com. You can go in and take a look at our platform and the investigations module. You can request demos. We focus in a lot on the website and a lot with our clients that we work with on use cases. So we have found that the right implementation of a platform is towards specific use cases: threat hunting, spear phishing, incident response, alert triage, vulnerability management, those kinds of things. And so I highly recommend people to walk through the use cases and how we talk about them, see which kind of use cases really reflect your team and your organization and where you're trying to go.
Really great. Listen, it was wonderful connecting up with you. I enjoyed,
you too.
Before we did our video, you and I reminisced a little bit about some of the old days when working together. Really nice to see you. Wish you well, and thanks again on behalf of the folks watching and our team at Tag Cyber. Cooch, we appreciate you spending some time sharing with us today.
Thanks, Ed. You guys take care. Stay safe.
You bet. And for everyone else, we'll see you next time.